I never told anyone the full story. Until now. Not because I was protecting someone. Not because I was brave. But because I didn't know how to say it out loud without unraveling. It started with a phone call I wish I'd never answered. You know the kind. The ones that cut the air in the room and freeze your breath mid-sentence. I was reaching for my coffee. The mug still sat there for hours afterward. Full, untouched. I still can't drink that blend anymore. That day, everything split open. Not with screaming. Not with tears. But with silence. A silence that moved in and never left. Her name was Elise. But I never really called her that. She was Lissy when she danced in the kitchen with her socks half off. She was Elle when she got serious, when her brow furrowed just before giving advice I didn't ask for, but always needed. And she was just hey when I looked at her across the room. That quiet, familiar shorthand we built over the years. We met in October. The air was sharp, the leaves already brittle, and she had this ridiculous scarf that wrapped around her neck 3 times. I still remember that scarf, mustard yellow with tiny embroidered suns. She told me once she wore it when she needed to feel warm on the inside, not just outside. I wasn't looking for love then. I wasn't really looking for anything. Just drifting between jobs, trying to convince myself that I was fine living a life half-lived. But she saw right through me. She had this way of pausing before she spoke, like the words had to line up right in her mind before they left her lips. That pause used to drive me mad. And then, years later, I'd miss it more than anything. We didn't fall in love like in the movies. There were no fireworks, no montage-worthy moments. It was slow, gentle, like sinking into a warm bath after being out in the cold too long. Her world became mine without me realizing it. Her morning rituals, her odd music tastes, her little notes she'd leave in my pockets when I had big meetings. Before her, I didn't know what home really felt like. And if I had known how short forever would be, I would have held her a little tighter. I would have watched her sleep more often. I would have listened longer when she talked about dreams she wasn't sure she deserved. But of course, we never know. Not until the moment it all changes. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I hated Tuesdays. Nothing good ever happened on a Tuesday. And this one ended everything. The morning had been normal. She kissed me on the forehead while I was half asleep, whispering something about groceries and yoga and how the cat had thrown up on the rug again. I mumbled something back. I don't even remember what. And that was it. That was the last time I heard her voice in real time. Around 2:47 p.m., my phone rang. I was in a meeting, zoning out, pretending to care about a slide deck. The screen lit up. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. I wish I hadn't. I wish I could go back and just leave the room. Pretend it never rang. But I picked up. A woman's voice, calm, too calm, asking if I was related to Elise Carter. There'd been an accident. A driver ran a red light. There was a pause. That same pause she used to do before saying something important. But this time, it was filled with dread, not care. We did everything we could. Everything after that blurred. I think I dropped the phone. I remember the hum of the fluorescent lights, the way my breath caught in my chest and stayed there like a rock. People moved around me, but no one touched me. No one said anything. I drove to the hospital with hands that weren't mine. Every stoplight felt like a joke, as if the world still expected rules to be followed. I asked to see her. They told me I shouldn't. I asked again. They said she didn't feel anything, that it was fast, that she didn't suffer. But they didn't know her. She hated fast things. She liked slow mornings and slow songs and slow kisses. I kept thinking, she must have been scared. She must have known. That thought broke me. The worst part? There were no last words. No final conversation. No dramatic goodbye. Just silence. And a voicemail she'd left me earlier that day. Something about picking up almond milk and whether we should finally book that trip to Lisbon. I still have that voicemail. I still play it sometimes. Her voice is bright, distracted, alive. It kills me every single time. The days after, I don't even know how to describe them. Time didn't move forward. It just collapsed inward. People came by with casseroles and hollow words. They said things like, she's in a better place, or at least you had that time together. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake them and ask, where exactly is that better place? Because I want to go too. But instead, I nodded. I said, thank you, and poured drinks I didn't want to drink. And when they left, I sat on the floor with her sweater in my lap, pressing it to my face until the smell faded. Until it just smelled like fabric. I told my boss I was fine, that I just needed a few days. I went back to work the next week. Because what else was I supposed to do? Grief doesn't come with a manual. There's no out-of-office reply that says, "I'm currently unavailable, trying to remember how to breathe without her." I lied to everyone. Yeah, hanging in there. Taking it one day at a time. Trying to stay busy. I hated that phrase, stay busy, as if distraction was the cure for devastation. But the truth is, it was the little things that destroyed me. A song in the supermarket, that one she always sang off-key. I dropped an orange and just couldn't pick it up. I stood there while people stepped around me, like I was invisible. Like grief made me a ghost, too. I'd wake up at 3 a.m., reaching for her, only to touch cold sheets and realize, again, that she was gone. Over and over. Every morning. Like the first time. I started replaying that voicemail. Not once or twice. 50 times. 100. Her voice was the only proof I had that she was real, that we were real. I stopped opening the mail. I didn't answer calls. The cat, her cat, kept waiting by the door every evening, as if she'd walk in at any moment. It gutted me. That dumb little hope in its eyes. That faith. I lost track of days. I forgot to eat. Or I ate too much. I don't remember. What I do remember is the loneliness. Not the kind you fix with company. The kind that grows inside you. The kind that whispers, "You'll never feel whole again." And the terrifying part was, I believed it. It wasn't some grand epiphany. No thunderstorm. No dream visitation. Just a Tuesday again. I was going through a drawer we never opened. The miscellaneous one. You know the type. Old receipts, batteries that might still work, tangled earbuds, expired coupons. I was looking for a screwdriver. Instead, I found her handwriting. A card. Folded in half, tucked between a takeout menu and a broken pen. It was addressed to me. Simple. In case you ever forget. I sat on the floor. Didn't move for what felt like hours. Just stared at it. My hands shook opening it. Inside it said, "You forget things sometimes. Like how good you are when you think you're not. Like how loved you are, even when you feel impossible to be around. So I wrote this to remind you. You are worth loving. Even on your worst days. Especially on your worst days." It wasn't for after she was gone. It wasn't some goodbye letter. It was something she wrote months earlier after a fight. One of those stupid ones about dishes or who forgot to buy toilet paper. But it felt like she was speaking to me now, through time, through death, through the unbearable silence she left behind. I held that card like it was oxygen. Like if I let go, I'd slip right back into the dark. That night, I didn't listen to the voicemail. I just read the card again. And again. And the next morning, for the first time in weeks, I opened the window. The air didn't feel fresh, but it felt real. And for a second, I remembered what that used to feel like, being alive. Not okay, not healed, but alive. Healing doesn't come in waves. Not for me. It came in dust, slow, invisible, always settling before I noticed. It started with small things. I started cooking again. Nothing fancy, just the pasta she loved, the one she claimed I always oversalted. I made it one night. For no one. Sat at our table, ate it in silence, and cried between bites. But I finished it. And that mattered. I went for walks. Not for clarity, just because the walls of our apartment started feeling like they were closing in. I'd see couples walking by, hands intertwined, and for a while, I hated them. Not out of cruelty, out of envy, out of memory. I cleaned out her side of the closet. Folded each item carefully, like I was folding parts of her. I didn't give them all away. Some I couldn't. Her worn gray hoodie still lives on the back of my chair. Sometimes, I wear it when the nights feel heavier. People stopped asking if I was okay. And weirdly, that helped. Because I wasn't. But now I didn't have to pretend anymore. I started journaling. Not because I'm the Dear Diary type, but because the thoughts had to go somewhere. One page turned into 10. 10 into whole notebooks. I started writing her letters. Not for answers. Just to talk. And in those letters, I found something I didn't expect. Myself. I started to remember who I was before the grief. And who I was becoming because of it. Not stronger. Not braver. But softer. More real. More awake to the fragility of everything. I forgave myself, little by little. For not answering her last text right away. For not saying, "I love you" that morning. For surviving when she didn't. Grief didn't leave. It just learned to walk beside me. And eventually, slowly, quietly, I started to live again. Not the same life. A different one. But one she'd be proud of. Some people talk about moving on. I don't think that's real. I didn't move on. I moved forward. One reluctant, aching step at a time. There are still days I reach for my phone to tell her something. A stupid meme. A funny thought. Some tiny win. And then I remember. And it hits just as hard. But now I sit with it. I let the ache in. I let the silence speak. And in that silence, sometimes, I hear her laugh. Not in some mystical way, just in memory. Just enough to soften the moment. Loss didn't destroy me. It cracked me open. It showed me everything I used to take for granted. Time. Touch. The sound of someone breathing beside you. I live slower now. More honestly. More aware that every goodbye could be the last. The day I lost her changed everything. But in losing her, I found parts of myself I never knew existed. The tender ones. The present ones. The ones that know how to love without assumption. Some things we never get over, but we learn to live beside them. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's what healing really is.